We're here today with Sharon Smith, and we're at the Rock of Ages Lutheran Church in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And Sharon leads a mental health support group in her church called Eeyore and Friends, which I think is a very unique and clever name. And so Sharon, welcome to our blog. And so we have some questions for you. So tell us, how did you get started doing mental health or emotional health support groups?
Well, I have my own struggle with depression, and as I began sharing my story with people, it resonated with them, and many people said that it would be great to have a support group. And so when I began praying about it, the two things that I really felt were important were that I have somebody to walk alongside of me through this process. And secondly, that we have some material to use. Because I didn't want it to be a group where we got together and shared about how bad our week was and get more depressed. And then I came in contact with your material, and once I came in contact with it and found that you deal with the body, soul, and spirit, we were immediately amazed to have found it and knew that that was the answer to our prayer.
And so that was in Regina, where you started that support group.
That's right. It was called MyPad.
And then how did you get to Eeyore and Friends? That's a great name.
Yeah, well, you know, MyPad stood for panic, anxiety, and depression. But we have many people with bipolar disorder in our group, so we didn't want to be exclusive. And Brian came up with the idea of Eeyore and Friends.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah.
Now tell me, what do you actually do during your meetings?
Okay, we meet every other week, and we meet for 2 hours. I kind of have a time limit on it, just so that people know when it will be over. There's some comfort in that for people with depression, knowing what they're going into. We meet, and for about the first half an hour, we do an icebreaker around the tables, and it's ideal for us to get to know each other a little bit in a safe talking environment. And then we watch one DVD for an hour, and I hand out the sheets that you have, and people fill them out as we go. And the next half hour, we talk about the DVD. Now, we don't always stay on the sheet because sometimes it takes us in different areas.
So you watch one of my DVDs, do the questions in my workbook, and then head off into whatever direction God's leading you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what kind of results have you seen from your group over the years that you've been doing this?
Oh, I don't think anybody has come to the group who's been disappointed. And not only have they not been disappointed, they've gone on to live victorious Christian lives.
So what are some of the changes that people experience by coming to the group, like what they've learned or how they've used it in their life? Well,
you know, for some people, just learning the physical aspects of mental illness has been huge. Being set free to take medication, for many people, has been tremendous. But the topics like self-rejection and shame have just hit deep to the heart. And many people have been freed of lies and have been able to find answers for things that they've been looking for all of their life.
Now, lots of people have contacted me about how to start a support group in their church, because there's lots of Christians with mood disorders, and of course we all have baggage.
Right.
So do you have any tips for the people watching who would like to have that kind of a ministry in their church?
Well, I'm married to a pastor, so I have the advantage. We've often done a broken series in our church, and mental illness or mood disorders is always one of the topics. So I get up and share my story, which I don't find it as vulnerable doing it now, but it generally touches people that I would get up and share the struggles that I've had and where it's led me. And so that, I think, for us has been a big thing, the pastor being on board and the freedom to share the weaknesses of ourselves. And usually after that, the next week, we begin the support group.
So you just invite people to come?
Yes.
And you have a curriculum and a discussion group?
Yes.
So it's really simple?
Yes.
And very low budget?
Right.
And it sets people free?
Absolutely.
You can do it. So thanks so much, Sharon, for sharing with us what you're doing here in Saskatchewan. And and to realize if you want to live a transformed life, you need to move to freedom. And join a support group if you can find one in your area. And if this is your first visit here, then you need to get my free self-assessment guide. And to do that, just subscribe to my weekly email newsletter by filling out the subscription form, which you know where it is. Even in Saskatchewan, it's always right there. And we'll talk to you again next week. But this week, think of how you could be part of a support group or even start one. We'll talk to you then.